Welcome to today's Athlete on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I would like to welcome our guest today, Houston Texans long snapper Jonathan Wells. How you doing, Jonathan?
It's good, man. How are you?
I don't know. We got to watch it because we usually do Legends Show, and I almost said former Houston Texans long snapper there.
Oh yeah, let's not put that bad juju on me.
Yeah, let's wait about a decade for that. So, tell us a little bit about your childhood growing up when you started playing football.
Yeah, so I grew up a military brat. I was born in Bethpage, New York, and my dad got in the military Air Force branch when I was 6 months, so I moved around a lot as a kid. Was always very active. My parents always put me in everything they could put me in: soccer, baseball, basketball, football. So I played as many sports as I possibly could for as long as I possibly could, with my favorite for a while being soccer. But started playing football, started flag football when I lived in Turkey, which probably about 5 or 6 years old. And when we moved back to the States, I started up tackle football, and I've been playing ever since.
All right. So did you start in high school or right before high school?
What's that? Long
football.
snapping?
Yeah, the football. Just playing football in general.
No, just playing football in general. I started, again, when I was 5 or 6 years old.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
I've been playing, yeah.
So
yeah, I've been playing as long as I can remember. So
yeah, and I know I read that you played at Mountain Ridge High School where you guys were really successful. You were an O lineman, D lineman. You want to talk to us about any maybe influences coaching-wise, or maybe your father that really had a huge impact on your life younger?
Yeah, when it came to my football background, my grandfather, he had a big influence on me. What he used to do is, again, growing up a military brat, moving around a bunch, most of my summers were spent back home in New York. We'd go visit my grandparents, and we'd stay there for the 3 months during summer. And he'd take me upstairs to his room, and he'd sit me down, and he'd give me basically a yellow legal pad, and he'd basically just start telling me, okay, 34 dive, I'd have to draw out the entire offense, and I'd have to draw out which lineman blocked where on a 34 dive, or they was facing a 4-3 or a 3-4, and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of how my love for football started when I was younger. And since he always kind of pushed me on that pad, I really I really enjoyed the offense and defensive line aspect of it, which is what I eventually ended up playing in high school. And I played for some great coaches in high school, and we did have a lot of success, and I enjoyed high school football very much.
All right, so when did you start long snapping?
I started long snapping my freshman year in high school. I had a coach of mine, his name is Ben Bernard. He actually currently runs a snapping academy out in Arizona. He was our varsity line coach at the time, and he just came up to me and he said, I'm going to teach you a skill that's going to provide you an opportunity to go to college and get a free education, but you have to devote all the time I need from you to get good at it. And he said, if you're willing to do that, then I'll help you. And to show him that you're willing to do it, you had to teach yourself, and you had to do it your freshman year. So that's what I did. I had my dad kind of teach me. I did it my freshman year, and then when he saw that I was devoted enough to do it, he took me under his wing, and it just became second nature to me.
Yeah, and when I look at it, so he's with the Arizona Elite Long Snapping, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is.
Okay.
And back it's always funny. You can remember back in our day when we did it. There was always a snapper for every grade. There was always a guy that was going to be a senior that did it, a guy that was going to be a junior, sophomore, freshman, etc. And we would always bring in our running backs, and we'd always bring in our wide receivers, tight ends, anyone who had to handle the football or catch a ball would hold for us. And we would do 250 to 300 balls a day in our school gymnasium. And, everyone always thinks I lie, but when I say we did it every day of the year, we did it every day of the year, holidays, it did not matter. We had to find two and a half, 3 hours out of our day to get those 300 balls in.
Yeah, and I think people look and they think the pressure position on a football team is a quarterback or a cornerback, but really, I mean, a long snapper, you may only be in 6 or 7 plays in a game, but those are about as high pressure as you can get. You screw up, everybody knows it, and you can easily cost your team a game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that when you talk to most of us, you'll hear it a lot. A lot of guys are going to say the best snappers are the ones that you don't even really know who they are or what they're doing on the team. So if I can stay as, anonymous as possible and nobody really knows me, that just tells me that I'm doing a pretty solid job at what I'm doing.
Now, you were a really good defensive lineman, offensive lineman, as we talked about. I know I read you won the Curly Culp Award as the best defensive lineman in Arizona. Can you talk about the recruiting process you went through? And I know you were a little undersized there, so were you recruited more as a lineman or more as a long snapper?
Yeah, unfortunately, in 7th grade I was 5'9" and was told I was going to end up being 6'3", but I haven't grown an inch since 7th grade, so currently I'm still 5'9". But I was recruited more as a long snapper than anything else. Obviously, a lot of the schools that I had talked to, a lot of the in-state schools, they told me they liked what I did when they saw my defensive tape, but it all, at the end of the day, came back to the size factor, which, there's just some things you can't teach. You can't teach size or speed or anything like that. So it was unfortunate, but, Ben was able to really hone in my skills as a long snapper, and, the promise he made me my freshman year came true, and I was able to attend Baylor University on a scholarship after my first semester.
So what made you choose Baylor? Because I know Baylor's program was not great at the time. I think Guy Morris was the head coach when you got there. You want to talk to us a little bit about why you went to Baylor?
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those things. I had visited the in-state schools, U of A, Arizona State. I had visited Northern Arizona. I had a couple smaller school offers, Idaho State. I had a couple walk-on offers. Nothing had really jumped out at me. Waco came into the recruiting process late, and I just remember falling in love with the campus when I got there. Waco is obviously not a very big town, a town that majority of people are going to drive through, when you pass through it, just because there's not a lot there. But the university was gorgeous. I fell in love with the university. I really liked my special teams coach at the time, Coach Nelson, I believe, who's up in Canada right now, coaching up there. And he believed in me from the get-go. He didn't care that I was a little undersized. He thought I had a potential to be a very good snapper. And at the end of the day, I never knew how far long snapping would take me, but I knew if I wanted to try to make it in the NFL, that at the time I thought the Big 12 was going to be the best route to go. Facing teams like Oklahoma and Texas, Texas Tech, Texas A&M at the time, all those teams, were producing a lot of NFL caliber players. So, in my head, if I wanted the opportunity at the NFL, if I could go to Baylor and be successful, having to protect against those guys, I thought it would give me a good chance to translate to the NFL.
Yeah, and when you got there, how big an adjustment was from high school to college, Division I college football?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the biggest adjustment for us as snappers is always going to be the athletes that you have to go up against and your protection. In high school, I was allowed to snap the ball and run straight down the field and try to make a tackle. At Baylor under Coach Nelson, we ran a very traditional punch system, so I was required to snap a ball and have to block, and that was something I wasn't used to. And I had to do it against good athletes in college, so that's something I had to get used to. That I was able to get used to pretty quickly. And then translating to the NFL, it's the same thing. It's now having to be able to block, speed defensive end rushers and the A-gaps, and sometimes they're going to isolate you to go one-on-one. So are you able to deliver the ball accurately with speed and be able to get out of your stance and go ahead and block one of those guys who are paid a lot of money to go ahead and beat these big offensive tackles, and they're already getting a step on me with my head between my legs. So I think for us as snappers, the adjustment's always going to be the speed aspect of it. But once you get it down, It's all just kind of repetition.
Yeah. And when you look at it at Baylor, as we said, you didn't play on the greatest teams at Baylor. What is maybe the highlight that sticks out most of your career while you were at Baylor?
Yeah, I actually, we always joke when I bring up my Baylor career that I got a lot of practice at the punting game. But there were I had some great moments at Baylor. I believe my freshman year we beat A&M. I think it might have been Halloween weekend in Waco when A&M was ranked 15th in the country. I think it was the first time Baylor had ever beat A&M when entering the Big 12. I had the privilege of snapping to one of the best punters in college football for 3 years, Daniel Sepulveda, the first two-time Red Guy Award winner, still a good friend of mine at this time. But, I mean, my biggest accomplishment from Baylor is, being able to walk away with a degree. I went to a great school. I graduated in 3.5 years. I'm very proud of that. And I'll always love and cherish my time at Baylor, even though, unfortunately, I wasn't able to bring a lot of winning to the football program.
Yeah, and unfortunately for you, you left right about the time the program was getting ready to take off, too, under Coach Briles. When you got done with your career at Baylor, did you think that you were going to be able to play in the NFL? I know you were undrafted in 2008. You want to take everybody kind of through the process that a long snapper has to endure to get to the NFL?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, for me, things are a lot different. So once my college career was over, I knew, obviously, because of my size, that I probably wasn't going to get drafted. But I had heard that there was a possibility maybe as a free agent. Nothing came to get invited to camp, but I did get invited to Detroit's rookie mini camp for that weekend. So I attended that, where I believe I won like special teams MVP of the weekend or something like that. But the staff was very high on me. They told me I definitely had the ability to do it at the professional level. It was just going to take a team to kind of fall in love with me. They liked me, but they had a very good long snapper at the time who still currently is there with the team. So they weren't looking for anybody. But once that happened, it's kind of just a waiting game. In the NFL, there's only one snapper per team, so there's only 32 spots open. And, you got these veteran guys in here who are performing their jobs well. There's a lot of times that teams don't want to make a change. So I kind of waited my time. I was out of football for 2 years. And for those 2 years, back at home in Phoenix working and trying to get onto the fire department. I was working a third shift at a hospital. And I was just kind of trying to get life going, because at the end of the day, as much as I was trying to pursue my dream, I knew that, if it doesn't happen, I have to have another career path. So I enjoyed my time as a firefighter, working as a firefighter. Fortunate for me, I attended Arizona's free agent camp in Arizona in 2010, where I went in and I performed pretty well. And then shortly after the draft, I had a few phone calls. I had a couple workouts lined up, and I was able to take advantage of a workout here in Houston, and they didn't let me go.
Yeah, and I mean, you get to the Texans about the time they make a run, make the playoffs a few years in a row. There's a guy by the name of J.J. Watt there. I mean, this is a team that I think if we fast forward to next year, I mean, when you look, you get Watt back healthy, Watson back healthy. I don't think there's any reason why you guys can't challenge for an AFC championship.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. We get, you include, obviously JJ is a huge piece, Deshaun's a huge piece, but, Whitney Merciless has been having great years. Unfortunately, we lose JJ and Whit within 3 plays of each other, which was just unreal that happened. And then, I agree with you completely. I think when our guys come back fully healthy, I know the type of locker room that we have. I'm very lucky to be in that locker room with that group of guys. A lot of high-character guys, a lot of guys that really care about winning. And I think we have the opportunity to do something special, but we all know that we have to get back to work, and we have to work our tails off to earn the opportunity to do that.
So as a long snapper, kind of explain to us what your practice week entails.
Yeah, so, normal practice, I mean, everyone's practice week is different. From what I understand, obviously being with Houston for the 8 years I have been with, our normal schedule Mondays is more of a review, conditioning maintenance day, take care of your body, kind of fix your bumps and bruises, get a workout in, get some conditioning in, review what had happened on Sunday if we're coming off of a game, and then Tuesday seems to be the normal day off during the week for the NFL. I know some teams are doing it differently now, where they take them a little later in the week. Wednesday for me has been primarily a high punt day. So it's just coming in and getting my body ready for the practice, which is going to be a high volume punt practice, and then mentally preparing for what a team might throw at me during the weekend. Kind of seeing what teams like to rush in certain situations and who they like to rush, who they like to attack, what kind of schemes they like to run when they're trying to get to the punter. Just certain things like that. And then Thursday is more of a high volume kickoff day. So that's more mental reps for me. If I feel like I'm a little off during the week, or if I feel like there's something I need to correct Wednesday, I'll do those corrections on Thursday. Friday, we'll touch on everything. So Friday is another busy work day for me, where I'll do a lot of punt and a lot of field goal work. And then Saturday is kind of a walkthrough, and Sunday we're getting ready to go.
All right, so you talk a little bit about Coach Bill O'Brien. I think he's a guy that the job he's done there with a different quarterback almost every year, making the playoffs up until this year, when, as you said, things beyond his control kind of got to you guys. You want to talk a little bit about Coach O'Brien?
Absolutely. I love playing for Coach O'Brien. I think Coach O'Brien has done an absolute great job since he's been here, since he's been the guy. Again, it's somebody that I love to play for. He's that coach that I think a lot of those guys in the locker room will fight for every day, and we know what to expect, and that's all you can really ask for, I think, in this league is to kind of know what to expect and have somebody who's very upfront and honest with you. And that's what Coach O'Brien is. He's very upfront. He's very honest with us. He explains to us, the way he wants it done, and what he thinks it's going to take to get us to where we're all trying to get to, which is a championship. And I think we're all on the same page. And, again, somebody I love to play for, and I love going to work every day to play for.
So looking forward, when you retire, whether it's a year from now, 10 years from now, I know you said you had your degree. What are your plans after football?
Oh, man, I mean, that's something that I wrestle with every day. I do, to this day, still love every aspect of being a firefighter and what it entailed. So I don't think the firefighter thing for me is ever really going to be out of the picture until I figure out what I want to do. I don't have a for sure answer for that. Some people have told me I handle the media well, so they thought maybe I'd be decent on the radio. So I've been looking into areas to maybe give that a try. I'm not really too sure. I kind of just try to take it one day at a time, and really, for me, being out of football for 2 years and having the game kind of taken away from me, I really try to sit there and appreciate every day I get to go into work and do what I get to do, and I get to do what I love to do. So.
Yeah, and those 2 years, I forgot to bring this up, but those 2 years of not being in the league and never knowing if you're going to get there, I mean, a couple of years ago when you end up in the Pro Bowl, that had to be a surreal experience for you.
Yeah, it was. It was an amazing experience. One that, I was very lucky to. I'm very grateful for the Packers staff for selecting me to go that year, and to make that game even better than it was. Is that I got to take everybody that had been important to me on the 2-year journey that I was out, and me and my wife got everybody together, and I was able to bring all those people out to Hawaii with me to enjoy the week as well. So that was very special for me. Again, with the way the long snapper is selected, to have a staff go out of the way to feel like I was deserving of attending the Pro Bowl for them was a true honor, something I'm very grateful for, and something I really enjoyed.
Well, John, I really want to thank you for coming on today. Hopefully we can have you on maybe right before the season and then right after the Texans win the Super Bowl next year.
Yeah, Mike, that sounds great, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, I want to remind you, you can go to gruelingtruth.net, find all of our shows. We had George Foreman, Larry Holmes on over the last month, Robert Brazil, Jerry Kramer, Jonathan Weeks now. You can also check out our NFL draft specials. We are going to have actually quarterback guru Jeff Christensen, who's the private coach for Patrick Mahomes, and of course Jimmy Garoppolo. He will be on with us hopefully Sunday night. We'll get that started. I want to remind everybody you can hear us on iHeart, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you hear sports podcasts, you'll find the Grueling Truth. So for Jonathan Weeks, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to the Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.